Okay, Linda, sorry I had to do that. I went on a press trip there, and it was fantastic.
Hi, Anita. I read about your little junket, and it did sound fantastic.
Have you been to Bimini?
I don't think I ever have, believe it or not.
Right, I had never been there either before because we always think, always think of the Bahamas, and somehow that's not one of the places. But okay, kiddo. So I just wanted to have that done. So anyway, let's talk about you, and let's talk about what you're thinking about. I know you just wrote an article for us for our November issue, but you got the holidays coming up, so you got to think about another article.
I do. Every time I turn in an article, I say to myself, all right, I need to sit down and write more right now so that I'm not up against the deadline sitting there coming up with my article.
Well, you know something about you, though, that's different, too. You always manage to fit in the exact amount of space. We have so many people who don't know how to do that. That's a real art.
Oh, I didn't realize it was an art. I just know how many words I should be writing approximately for the column, and I just keep editing it till I get my message in that many words.
Well, Linda Sauget has a column every month in Boomer Times. It's called Think Yes. And that's how she lives her life. Think yes. If everyone did that, Linda, I think we'd have a happier world, don't you?
Oh, you know what? We would have a happier world because that is the secret to happiness. I've actually been reading a little bit about this, and I'm probably going to have to come up with a column about it. But we always think that if we achieve something or do something or get something or something happens that we want, that's what will make us happy. But the field of psychology, positive psychology, that studies happiness says it's actually the exact opposite. If you're happy, that's what attracts more of that into your life. So all we have to do is be happy and have a positive attitude and watch the miracles that just happen from your attitude. I mean, it makes sense. Think about it. If you're negative or critical or just have a bad attitude, don't you notice how everything around you is unpleasant and you don't feel that good about it? But when you're feeling great, just everything looks better. Everything just seems to go better. And now science is actually proving that that happiness is what breeds more happiness. The expression, the rich get richer or success breeds success, it's the same concept.
Very good point, Linda. And it's interesting that you should say that because I went to, it's a CVS. I went there to get my passport picture. And this woman is always there at the front counter. Now, you can go to any other place, and usually people are doing their work. When you walk in there, what happens is you find she welcomes you. She says, hello, how are you today? And I look over there, oh, great. And then when you go to check out, she never stops saying things to you that are so happy. And that's really, I told her, I said, does CVS know, your management know how you treat people and how you act? And she said, well, she did get some sort of a nice letter about it. Well, and you wonder why she does that and other people don't.
I think that what you described, she's creating an energy around her and in that store. And it's really through what she's putting out, just by being pleasant, by being friendly. I mean, you could do your own tests. People could do their own tests to see if this is true, but just smile at people. You almost always get a smile back. Just walk into a store smiling and look at people, and they'll smile back at you. They see that energy. They get that friendliness from you, and that is mirrored back in them. So friendliness begets friendliness. Happiness begets happiness. and you can spread that, and that's exactly what that woman is doing, and, you know, so many successful businesses do, and Anita, you do that too.
Thank you. Well, you know, we went to a restaurant the other day, and this woman, and it seems like all the people in this restaurant are happy and friendly, and I said, it's got to be management. It's got to be that someone said to them, if you're going to work here, this is how you have to be. They
understand the customer experience and customer service, and people don't want to be in an environment where the staff is, you know, talking nasty or being rude or being unhappy or having a scowl on their face. Even if these are subtle things, we pick up on that energy. We pick up on that attitude, and it affects you. It absolutely has a negative effect on you to be in that environment.
I think now that we have a new little dog, you haven't seen Snowy yet, have you?
Yeah, I have. I did meet Snowy.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you have. Well, this is the thing, though. When I walk the dog, there are some dogs, most of them are friendly and happy. They wag their tail. They're so cute. And then you see some that aren't. But if you look at the master, the person walking, they act the same way.
See, our attitudes have effects. This is probably true. It probably has an effect on our pets, how we are and what energy we give off probably is reflected in our pets. I bet that's true.
And see, we got it. That's your new column, right?
That just might be. I have a column brewing here.
Right, you do. You always do. Well, you know, Linda, it's really been great. And, of course, I met you through your book, and I think it makes such a wonderful gift for Christmas, for holidays. I think that people should really think about giving something that has a lasting meaning. You can buy candy, you can buy all sorts of flowers, and then they all die or they go away or they're eaten. But if you get a book like this, if you think it will stay. People will not toss that book and put it in your bathroom so when you get guests they can take a look at it, because Linda is very famous for these short little, they're quotations, and they're all carefully thought out about who she likes, and some of your, I don't have the book with me. Do you have it sitting there?
I do.
Okay. Sorry, I usually always bring your book. But I wondered, are there some special quotations? I know I've asked you this before, but what other quotations would you like people to hear about that you think could change their day today?
Oh, there are so many good ones. But, you know, along the lines of what we're talking about, I like Henry Ford, who said, if you think you can or if you think you can't, either way, you're right. So that says...
Well, that's good.
What we think about comes about, which is the theme of the book. If you think you can, or if you can't, or if you think you can't, either way, you're right. And I think that's such a powerful philosophy to recognize. Just a great way of. That's what I like about the book, is that no matter where you turn, you're going to find something to think about. It could be a short sentence like that, but it expresses an entire philosophy of how to live your life. And the more we study positive things and positive outlooks, the more, you know, our brains are malleable. We could train our brain to be more optimistic, to be more positive, to be happier, but you have to feed it good food, meaning positive thoughts. So I love that one by Henry Ford.
And I think that Wayne Dyer was always famous for saying that, in a sense, right?
He does. Wayne Dyer, he says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And see, in that short expression of an idea, that's a whole philosophy, but it is so true, because everything in our life depends on how we look at it. It all is really reflected in our point of view. And that's why two people can go into a restaurant. One can love it and one can hate the food. It's the food is the food, but it's what you bring into it. It's what your taste is. It's how you are.
You're so right, Linda. That's why I love having you on our show. In fact, Dr. Mencia came in, and he is a perfect example of what you said. He comes in, he has a bright smile, he's all dolled up, he's on his way to open up the medical center at 8 o'clock, and it's just a whole feeling when he comes in here, as compared to some people who are saying, oh, it's so early, why do you have a show this early, and it's so many complaints. Well, that's what their life is, one big complaint.
Exactly. And I just think it's fun to test it. If there are any doubters on the listening, just test it, because go into a place like Dr. Mencia walked in, go into a place just feeling energetic and positive and happy and smiling, and just notice people around you, how they respond to that, and then do the opposite. So we're so much more in control of our lives. Louise Hay always says life is really simple. We just make it complicated. I think there's probably some truth in that. It is pretty simple.
Well, and I've asked you this before, and of course you've had a very interesting childhood and now, of course, your adulthood. But what is it that makes you the way you are compared to other people? Do you think it's the family environment, or do you think you're born with a certain gene that helps you see things in a more positive way?
Well, I think there probably is some truth to that. I'm not speaking as a scientist right now, but, I think our environment does impact us. And so I think if you're born into an environment that's encouraging and positive and a happy environment, I think you may get a head start on it. But the good news is that if you were born in the exact opposite and your environment was very stressful and nasty and you had a very unhappy childhood, that's the past. We have the ability every minute in our life to create our life, and we can consciously change it. And again, that's one of the ideas in the book, is that by our conscious decisions and our conscious attitudes, we can change our life for the better. So I think, I did have very encouraging and supportive parents, and they were, I think, natural optimists and positive, and they always saw the glass half full. And the funny thing is, we never spoke about this. My parents, they just lived their life and raised us, and we never had these kinds of conversations. But obviously I saw that it was modeled to me. I was raised in that way. But I see in the things that I study and read, and in my own experiences, that we can change the things that go wrong in our life. Because certainly I've had my share of challenges and problems and things that have gone wrong, but I look at how I react to it, how I handle it. I may not be able to change the circumstance, but I am in control of what I do with it, how I respond to it. So I do think that possibly, our childhood and what we were taught has an initial impact on us, but we can change that at any time if it's not serving us, if it's not something that makes us happy. The past is the past, so we don't have to live in it. We don't have to remember bad things and say that, well, how else, my life can't be good because of all these terrible experiences. I mean, get out of the past. It's gone.
Well, one thing that probably you can help people with because of your philosophy and how you do handle things, when someone has a death in their family, and it's very it's very depressing, or if someone has had besides death, or they've had some very, they've lost their job or something is really very serious. How can they have a positive attitude about that, Linda?
Well, I think for one thing, you need to allow yourself to mourn and be sad and be frustrated and be scared and all of the emotions that we have when we lose a loved one or a job or, have any kind of a disappointment. So I don't think we should try not to feel what we're feeling. We should feel what we're feeling. And in those cases, we're going to be feeling fear and sadness, and it's appropriate, and it's not a bad thing to feel that. Where people, I think, get stuck is that they don't get out of those feelings. You have to mourn for the period of time that you have to mourn or be scared or whatever sadness is going on in your life. But at some point, you have to take a different action. At some point, you have to figure out what you can do, how else you can deal with it, how else you can move forward, and not be stuck in depression, not be stuck in being immobilized by the situation that happened. So it's kind of a combination of honoring that you've had a bad blow in life, and that is everybody is going to at some point, and so you just have to let yourself mourn and be sad, but then move on.
That's good advice, and I was thinking about, as you were talking, about gratitude. No matter how bad things are, there are so many positive things, aren't there, to think about, too, and many times they will offset what you think is everything's happening bad in your world.
That's so true, and in fact, that's one of the answers when people say, how can I find happiness? How can I be happy? One of the answers is find something to be grateful about. And it can be something so simple. I go through my entire day feeling gratitude about all of the smallest things. But, so I'll get into the shower and I think how lucky we are to have all this fresh water to refresh us and clean us. And I have all my little products, shampoos and conditioners and stuff. And people might just go through that motion and never give it a thought. But for me, that is something to be grateful about. So if you can just keep noticing all day long what there is to be grateful about. Beautiful weather. We live in a beautiful state. It's a mild climate. Even things like that, being in nature, if you start recognizing how much there is to be grateful for, that expands. Just like happiness expands, what you think about expands. And so, if you're going through a tough time, that's one of the ways to switch your thought and get out of the rut of thinking about whatever you're thinking about, is to change your focus to something that you're grateful for. Different things. It doesn't have to be big, major things. It can just be seeing a beautiful flower and taking the time to recognize how beautiful it is that we're alive and that there is always something to appreciate.
That's good advice. Very, very good advice. And, in your life, of course, you're very busy and you have lots of fun and you work hard. But you do have a side that you have to think about. I mean, you have a wonderful son and his family who live far away right now. And, I have to share that. Linda and I both are very close friends, and we have families, and we always share about our families are doing this or how come they're not doing that. And we both concluded something. What did we conclude about our sons?
Well, I think that we what did we conclude?
Well, we concluded that they're wonderful, they're happy, even though they don't call us every day, which we would like, right?
Exactly. But you know what? This is such a good example because you could go around and complain about that and be bitter, and you could say, I gave everything to my kids, and now, now they've moved away, or I don't let that be a source. Sure, it would be great if he was here, but I don't let that be a source of unhappiness. Acceptance.
Yeah.
You have to accept what is, because I could sit here and wish it were different, but it's not. So I think if you accept the situation, you're happier, your interaction with your family is better. So acceptance is a
right.
important key.
And she and I nurture each other. It's so funny what I always say is make sure your friends are positive, because otherwise they're going to drag you down. And so I always try to find positive friends, and Linda's one of my most positive friends. And so, Linda, you're so sweet to have called in this morning, and we're just about to run out of time. I hope that you get on that Bimini trip. You really enjoy that. You have to find some friends and maybe, and go on that. It's really
sounds fantastic.
It is. It is.
What a great opportunity.
It is. It's really been wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to, I hope everybody buys your book, because that's what's important. Please do buy Linda's book if you think it, and just read her articles. It will be so uplifting for you. Okay, Linda, go now and do something fun. It's almost 7 o'clock.
Thanks, Anita. You have a great weekend, too.
Thank
and a
you.
Great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.